Carolyn tapped the microphone with one polished nail and waited until every woman at my niece's baby shower turned toward the dessert table. The clubhouse had been decorated in soft green and cream, with tiny paper moons hanging from fishing line and a sign that said "Welcome Baby June" in curly gold letters. There were 80 people in the room, maybe more if you counted the husbands standing near the coffee urn, pretending they did not hear family business when it got loud. My sister smiled at all of them like she was about to bless the room. Then she said, "Before we open gifts, I think we should thank the people who actually showed up for this family. The ones who didn't hide behind trust papers while Grandma Lenora needed help." A few heads turned before I even moved. They knew who she meant. They had been trained to know. I was sitting in the second row, in a navy wrap dress I had ironed that morning, with a small silver gift bag resting beside my ankle. Inside the bag was a hand-crocheted blanket I had made during the winter nights when my mother slept through her medicine alarms, and I needed to keep my hands busy. I had put a white card on it that said, "For June, with love from Aunt Evelyn." Carolyn lifted her chin toward me. "And since Evelyn decided Grandma's money belongs in her private little folder instead of helping her own niece start a family, I think we can all see who really values blood." The room changed temperature without anybody touching the thermostat. My niece Natalie sat under the balloon arch with one hand on her belly. Her smile froze, then softened into something that looked practiced. Her husband looked at the floor. My brother Calvin crossed his arms. Cousins who had eaten my potato salad for 30 years looked down at their paper plates as if frosting had suddenly become fascinating. Carolyn held up a cream envelope. "This was supposed to be a family legacy gift," she said. $25,000 from Grandma's Care Trust, approved in spirit by Grandma herself before Evelyn locked everything away. But some people turn into accountants when it's time to be generous. A small laugh broke near the back. Not a happy laugh, a relieved one, the kind people use when they are glad the target is not them. I touched the handle of my purse, the blue accordion file inside it pressed against my knee. I did not bring it because I wanted a scene. I brought it because Carolyn had promised, in writing, that she was going to make one. 3 months before that baby shower, I had been making tea in my kitchen when the bank called about the Lenora Brooks Care Trust. My mother's trust was not grand or mysterious. It was a practical thing created after her second stroke, when her handwriting started to wobble and her memory turned into a hallway with too many doors. The trust paid for her assisted living suite, her physical therapy, medication management, dental appointments, and the overnight aide who sat with her during the bad weeks. It did not pay for vacations, nursery furniture, balloon arches, private grudges, or adult children who felt embarrassed by their own choices. I was the trustee because my father had asked me before he died, and because I had spent 31 years in bank compliance reading documents other people hoped nobody would read. That was not a secret exactly, but my family had a way of shrinking my work into a joke. "Evelyn and her forms," Carolyn would say at cookouts. "Ask Aunt Evelyn if you need 3 signatures to pass the salt," Natalie used to add. I let them laugh. Paperwork had never needed applause. The bank officer on the phone was named Mrs. Arlen. She had a careful voice, the kind people use when they know they are calling with bad news but want to leave you your dignity. "Ms. Brooks," she said, "we have several check copies and debit reimbursements that don't match the approved care categories. I need to confirm whether you authorized payments to Carolyn Price Event Styling." I set my mug down before I answered. "How many?" There was a pause. I heard a keyboard. 19 checks in the last 14 months, totaling $43,870. I looked across my kitchen at the framed picture of my mother at 75, standing in a red cardigan on the porch she loved before the stroke took the porch from her. In the photograph, she was laughing at something outside the frame. I remember thinking that Carolyn would have found a way to stand inside that frame if she could. "Send me copies," I said. Mrs. Arlen explained that a caregiver reimbursement card connected to the trust had also been used for purchases coded as home goods, catering supplies, and event rentals. The card had originally been issued years earlier, so Carolyn could buy approved items for Mom when she drove her to appointments. The problem was that Carolyn had stopped driving Mom anywhere almost 2 years before. She still visited with flowers when she knew relatives were there. She still posted pictures with captions like, "My sweet mama, my heart." But she had not handled a medication refill, a care plan meeting, or an emergency call since the spring before Natalie's wedding. The checks arrived 2 days later in a flat white envelope. I opened them at my dining table with a legal pad beside me. 19 copies, each one payable to businesses Carolyn controlled or used. Carolyn Price Event Styling, Sweet June Interiors, Gardenia Paper Co., and once, simply cash. The memo lines were insulting in their laziness. Care supplies. Walker repair. Room refresh. Therapy chair. Private aid. Incontinence storage. Emergency care items. My mother did not have a therapy chair. Her walker had been repaired by the facility maintenance staff at no cost. Her room refresh had been a quilt I bought at Target and a framed print of Savannah, where she had honeymooned with my father. I had the receipt for $39.99. On the 17th check, for $3,600, Carolyn had written the memo, "Family Care Consultation." I sat with that one longer than the others, not because it was the largest, because it sounded like something a person writes when they have started to believe their own performance. I called Carolyn that evening. She answered with music in the background and said, "I'm busy, Evie. We're planning Natalie's shower." I received copies of trust checks today. The music lowered. "What checks?" "The ones made out to your businesses." She gave a small, irritated breath. "Don't start. Those were reimbursements." "For what?" "For things Mama needed. You wouldn't understand because you only show love with spreadsheets." I looked at the blue folder on my table. It was empty then, waiting to become necessary. "Send the receipts by Friday," I said. "If they match approved expenses, I'll file them." "You don't get to threaten me." "I'm not threatening you. I'm doing the job Daddy left me." That was when her voice changed, not louder, sharper. "You always loved being chosen." There it was, the old thorn. My father had named me trustee because I knew records. Carolyn heard it as a crown. She had been the pretty one, the social one, the one who could cry in a kitchen and have 3 relatives rub her back before she finished the first tier. I had been useful. Useful people are easy to resent because nobody throws them a party for keeping the roof from leaking. "Friday," I said. She hung up. By Friday afternoon, she had sent no receipts, but Natalie sent me a text. "Mom says you're holding Grandma's money hostage. Is that true?" I typed 3 responses and erased all of them. Then I wrote, "The trust pays Grandma's care expenses. It cannot legally be used for baby shower costs or personal gifts. I'm happy to explain if you want to talk." 3 gray dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Natalie answered, "You always have an explanation." After that, I stopped receiving planning updates. Cousins stopped mentioning the shower in front of me. At the salon, my neighbor Ruthie asked if I was still going, and I knew then that the story had traveled farther than the family thread. I did not defend myself at the salon. I did not call every cousin. I did not post a paragraph on Facebook. I requested records. The facility where Mom lived sent me itemized statements for the last 2 years. The pharmacy sent printouts. The physical therapy provider sent appointment notes and invoices. The overnight aid service sent a letter confirming I had paid them directly from the trust, with check numbers and dates. The bank sent signature cards, reimbursement card history, and scanned deposits. I printed Carolyn's emails from the year before, including one where she wrote, "Don't put my name on all those little purchases. Just code them under care so Evie stops asking questions." That sentence did not come from an enemy. It came from my sister, typed in black letters under a cheerful email signature with a watercolor magnolia. The deeper problem came in a second bank packet. Among the scans was a form Carolyn had submitted to expand her reimbursement access. It carried my mother's shaky signature, dated 8 months after Mom had lost legal signing capacity under the physician's certification in the trust file. The signature looked like my mother's name after someone had studied it for 10 minutes and missed the way she looped the L. I stared at that date for a long time. Then I called Mrs. Arlen. "I'm restricting Carolyn's access immediately," I said. "We already placed a temporary hold after your document request," she told me. "We'll need your trustee instruction in writing. You'll have it before noon." That was the moment the story stopped being a misunderstanding. I drove to a shipping store, made certified copies, and mailed Carolyn a formal demand letter drafted by the trust attorney. It did not threaten prison. It did not use dramatic words. It listed the 19 checks, the reimbursement card purchases, the unsupported access form, and the amount that had to be returned to the trust. It gave her 10 business days to respond. She responded by sending me a baby shower invitation with my name printed in the wrong font. Aunt Evelyn. Gift table volunteer. 11:00 a.m. arrival requested. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was so small after something so ugly. At the clubhouse, Carolyn had placed me near the gift table, far from the family chairs. The front row had reserved signs for grandmother's circle, though my mother was too fragile to attend. There was a framed photo of Mom beside the cake, draped with ribbon, as if she had given her blessing to every paper moon and sugared almond in the room. My name was not on the printed program. There was a page thanking family women who carried Grandma Lenora's loving legacy forward. Carolyn's name was first. Natalie was second. Calvin's wife, Tessa, was third. Even Carolyn's friend Marlene, who had met Mom twice, was listed for emotional support and planning. I was not mentioned. I took the program, folded it once, and placed it in my purse beside the file. At noon, Carolyn took the microphone. That brought us back to the moment when she held up the cream envelope and told the room I had locked away $25,000. She did not say trust clause. She did not say care expenses. She did not say her own access had been frozen the week before because the bank found unsupported checks. She said blood. She said generosity. She said private little folder. Then she looked right at me and added, "Evelyn, if you can sit there while your niece goes without, maybe you should explain to everyone why Grandma's money disappeared." There are moments when humiliation becomes so direct that it almost turns useful. Before that, people can pretend they misunderstood. After that, they have to choose whether they want the truth or the comfort of the lie. I stood up. The chair legs made a soft scrape on the clubhouse floor. It sounded louder than it was because Carolyn had finally stopped talking. I picked up my purse and walked to the front, not quickly. My knees hurt when I rushed, and I refused to give anyone the satisfaction of watching me hurry toward my own accusation. Carolyn held the microphone away from me. "This is Natalie's day," she said. "You made it a trust meeting," I answered. "I'm going to keep it brief." A few people shifted in their chairs. Calvin said, "Ev, not here." I turned toward him. "Then you should have stopped her before she named me." He looked down. Carolyn laughed once, but it missed its mark. "Fine, show everybody your folder, that's what you wanted." "No," I said. "What I wanted was for you to answer the attorney's letter in private." The word attorney moved through the room like a spoon dropped on tile. Natalie's eyes narrowed. "What letter?" Carolyn's face tightened, not enough for strangers to see, but enough for me. I had known that face since she was 9 and blamed a broken lamp on me because I was already the sensible one. I opened the blue accordion file. The first page was not a bank statement. It was the trust summary, 1 page, plain language, prepared by the attorney years earlier so family members would stop asking the same questions. I held it up. "This is the Lenora Brooks Care Trust. It pays for Lenora Brooks's care while she is living. Assisted living, medical support, therapy, medication, personal care, and approved related expenses. It does not provide baby shower gifts. It does not provide inheritance advances. It does not provide event money." Carolyn reached toward the paper. "Nobody needs a lecture." I moved the page back. I'm not lecturing. I'm correcting the sentence you just said about Grandma's money disappearing. I placed the trust summary on the dessert table beside a platter of lemon bars. Then I removed the second sheet. This is the facility statement for the last 24 months, paid in full from the trust. This is the pharmacy ledger, paid in full. This is the aid service letter, paid in full. This is the dental invoice, paid in full. Every required care expense has been paid. I laid each page down in a neat row. Not dramatic, not fast, just visible. A woman near the back whispered, "Then what was Carolyn talking about?" Carolyn snapped, "She's showing you what she wants you to see." "You're right," I said, "so I brought the checks you wrote." The room went so still, I could hear the air conditioner click on. I took out the packet of 19 check copies. The bank had stamped each one as official. I had clipped them with a black binder clip because I knew my hands would be steadier if the papers behaved. 19 checks, I said, totaling $43,870, all drawn from Mom's Care Trust, all unsupported by approved receipts, all payable to businesses connected to Carolyn or to cash. Carolyn's mouth opened. I did not wait for the performance. Check 1, Carolyn Price Event Styling, Memo Line Care Supplies. Check 2, Sweet June Interiors, Memo Line Room Refresh. Check 7, Gardenia Paper Co., Memo Line Therapy Chair. Check 17, Carolyn Price Event Styling, Memo Line Family Care Consultation. I placed 4 enlarged copies on the table, facing the room. I had made them large because most of the women at that shower were my age or older, and I knew tiny print lets liars hide. Calvin stood, Evelyn enough. I looked at him for a long second. He had not called Carolyn enough when she held up that envelope. "No," I said. "This family has repeated a lie for 3 months. They can hear the correction for 3 minutes." A murmur moved through the room. Someone pushed back a chair. Natalie had gone pale under her makeup. Carolyn stepped closer to the microphone. "Those were reimbursements. Mama wanted me to handle things you refused to handle." "Then show the receipts." "I don't carry receipts to baby showers." "I asked for them privately. The attorney asked for them privately. The bank asked for them privately." Her face flickered. That was the first time the word bank landed. I took out the access form next. I almost had not brought it. It felt too ugly to place beside cupcakes. But Carolyn had chosen the room, the audience, and the accusation. She did not get to choose which facts were polite. This form expanded Carolyn's access to trust reimbursements. It was submitted with Mom's signature 8 months after Mom's doctor certified she no longer had signing capacity. Natalie stood up so quickly the balloon arch trembled. "Mom." Carolyn looked at her daughter, and for 1 second the performer disappeared. What remained was fear with lipstick on it. "I did what I had to do," Carolyn said. "Your grandmother trusted me." I kept my voice low. Mom trusted all of us. The documents did not. That was when Marlene, Carolyn's friend, said, "Evelyn, are you even qualified to decide all this?" It was an honest question, wrapped in a rescue attempt. I turned toward her. "Yes, I am the appointed trustee under the trust agreement. I'm also a retired bank compliance officer. For 31 years, I reviewed account misuse, unauthorized access, and reimbursement fraud. That does not make me better than anyone in this room. It does mean I know the difference between an approved care expense and an event business writing itself checks." A few people looked at Carolyn's balloon arch then, and I hated that the baby shower had to become an exhibit. But truth often arrives wearing the clothes of the lie that invited it. Carolyn tried a different face, wounded, smaller. "You have always wanted to shame me," she said. I almost felt tired enough to sit down. "I mailed you the list before today. I gave you time to answer without anybody knowing. You froze my card." The bank froze the reimbursement card after receiving the documentation. "You told them to." "I instructed them to restrict trust access after unsupported checks were identified. That is my responsibility." Calvin asked, "Does Mama still have money for her care?" Yes, I said, facing him, because I stopped this. He flinched, as if the answer had done more damage than an accusation. Natalie sat down slowly. Her hand slid from her belly to the arm of the chair. She looked at the cream envelope still in Carolyn's hand. There was never $25,000 for the baby, she asked. I shook my head. No, not from the care trust. The trust could not give it. Carolyn said, I was going to replace what I used. I just needed time. Natalie needed help. You know how expensive everything is. For the first time, nobody rushed to soften her sentence. She had not said she did not do it. She had said she meant to put it back. That difference did the work I could not have done with a louder voice. The clubhouse manager appeared near the kitchen door, holding a clipboard. He had been hovering for 10 minutes, pretending to check coffee. Mrs. Price, he said, careful and embarrassed, I'm sorry to interrupt. The remaining venue balance was due before the gift portion. The card on file was declined twice. If there had been any mercy left in the room, that sentence spent it. Natalie closed her eyes. Carolyn whispered, Not now. The manager looked like he wished the floor would open. I can step outside with you. I put the check packet back into the folder. Carolyn turned to me with sudden anger. Are you happy? No. The answer surprised her. It surprised some part of me too, because it was completely true. There was no happiness in watching my sisters lie collapse under paper moons. There was no joy in seeing Natalie's shower bend under the weight of adult selfishness. There was only the clean, hard relief of not carrying somebody else's theft in my name anymore. I picked up my gift bag from the second row and walked it to Natalie. This is for the baby, I said. It has nothing to do with the trust. She looked at the bag, as if it might accuse her too. I didn't know about the checks, she whispered. I believe you didn't know all of it. That was as much as I could honestly give her. Carolyn said, Evelyn, don't you dare walk out like you're above us. I turned at the door. I'm not above you, Carolyn. I'm just no longer under your story. Then I left before anyone could turn the truth into a group discussion, where my pain became a problem to manage. That evening, Carolyn sent me 8 text messages. You ruined my daughter's shower. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You could have handled this privately. Family doesn't do this. You always wanted to be Daddy's favorite. You better not take this further. Call me. Evie, call me. I read them once. Then I forwarded the messages to the trust attorney and turned my phone face down. The next week did not explode. Real consequences rarely do. They arrive in envelopes, emails, policy notices, and calendar appointments. The bank permanently removed Carolyn's reimbursement access. The trust attorney required her to sign a repayment agreement for the unsupported $43,870, with the first payment due in 30 days. The event businesses she had used had to submit actual invoices or be barred from future trust-related payments. Since there were no legitimate care invoices, there was nothing for them to submit. Calvin called me 3 days after the shower. He started with, You know she's embarrassed. I was standing in my laundry room folding towels. She should be, I said. She says she panicked because Natalie needed help. Then she could have asked family for help. She could not take Mom's care money and let everyone call me a thief. He sighed like I was making a difficult situation difficult by numbing it. I'm not saying she was right. What are you saying? I'm saying we need to heal. That word had been used in my family whenever the person bleeding was expected to mop the floor. Healing starts with telling the truth, I said, not asking me to make the truth quieter. Calvin said nothing. I folded another towel. Finally, he asked, Is Mama's care really secure? Yes, I sent you the statements. I didn't read all that. I know. That was the whole family pattern in 4 words. They did not read all that. They did not read the trust, the letters, the statements, the invoices, the physician certification, the demand notice. They read Carolyn's face. They read my silence. They read whatever let them stay comfortable. After the shower, comfort got expensive. Marlene's husband removed Carolyn from the community fundraiser committee because the committee handled checks. He did it gently, calling it a pause during a family financial dispute, but everyone knew what it meant. The clubhouse required prepayment before any future Price family event. The balloon company asked for a cashier's check. Gardenia Paper Co. stopped answering Carolyn's calls after the bank asked for documentation on the trust checks. Natalie sent one email 2 weeks later. Aunt Evelyn, I'm sorry for what I said over text. I didn't understand the trust. Mom told me you were punishing us. I should have asked you. Thank you for the blanket. We're naming her June Lenora. Natalie. I read the email twice. Then I wrote back. I hope June arrives healthy and loved. The blanket was made for her, not for the argument. Take care of yourself. I did not write, it's okay. It was not okay yet. There is a difference between leaving a door unlocked and dragging people through it. Carolyn did not apologize. Not really. She sent one message through Calvin saying she regretted how things came out. That was not an apology. That was a complaint about exposure. I did not demand more. I had spent enough of my life trying to make people admit things they were already living inside. The repayment agreement began. The first check cleared, then the second. Smaller than I wanted, later than required, but real. The trust attorney copied me on every receipt. I filed them behind the 19 check copies in the blue folder, not because I wanted to keep a trophy, but because families with short memories require long records. Mom never learned the whole story. There was no reason to place it on her lap. When she asked why Carolyn had not visited lately, I told her Carolyn was busy with Natalie and the baby. That was true enough to be kind. In late September, Natalie gave birth. A picture arrived in the family thread. A tiny baby with a pink face and one clenched fist, wrapped in the blanket I had made. Nobody tagged me. Nobody mentioned the shower. But in the corner of the photo, tucked beside the hospital bassinet, was the white card that said, "For June, with love from Aunt Evelyn." I saved the picture and did not comment. A week later, Natalie came to see Mom at the facility. She brought the baby, and Carolyn did not come with her. I was already there, labeling Mom's new sweaters with a fabric marker. Natalie paused in the doorway like a person standing at the edge of a cold pool. I can come back, she said. Mom looked up and beamed at the baby. Oh, bring that child here. So Natalie came in. For 20 minutes, the room belonged to 4 generations and no accusations. Mom held June with help from both of us. The baby made small bird noises. Natalie cried a little when Mom whispered the name Lenora as if she understood the honor. When Mom fell asleep, Natalie and I stepped into the hallway. She said, I should have stopped Mom at the shower. Yes, I said. The answer landed between us, plain and clean. Natalie nodded. I'm trying to figure out what I believed because it was true and what I believed because it was easier. That takes time. Are you done with us? I looked through the doorway at my mother sleeping, one hand still curled as if it remembered the baby's weight. I'm done being useful to people who insult me while using what I protect. Natalie swallowed. That's fair. It's necessary, I said. Fair would have started earlier. She almost smiled, but did not ask me to soften it. That was the first grown-up thing she had said to me in months. That was the part nobody tells you about quiet justice. It does not always end with a room full of apologies. Sometimes it ends with your own front door closing at a peaceful volume. The blue folder stayed in my file cabinet after that, labeled Lenora Trust Carolyn repayment. Every month, another receipt went in. Every month, Mom's care bill got paid first. Every month, the story Carolyn had told got a little less useful. When June was 6 months old, Natalie mailed me a photo in a small envelope. Not a text. A printed photo. The baby was sitting up on a quilt, wearing a green dress, chewing on the corner of the blanket I had made. On the back, Natalie had written, "She loves this blanket. I hope someday you'll tell her about great-grandma Lenora." I put the photo on my refrigerator. Not because everything was healed, because the child had not stolen anything from me. Carolyn's final repayment would take years. Trust does too, maybe longer. People sometimes ask what I would have done if Carolyn had apologized before the shower, before the microphone, before she turned my mother's care into a public accusation. I know the answer. I would have accepted repayment, protected Mom, and kept the matter as private as the law allowed. That was the path I offered. Carolyn wanted an audience for the lie and privacy for the proof. She got the reverse. I still visit Mom every Tuesday and Friday. I still balance the trust ledger, still read every invoice. Still keep copies of anything someone might later pretend was never said. My life did not become louder after the baby shower. It became cleaner. Sometimes, when I pass the community clubhouse, I remember the paper moons, the lemon bars, the cream envelope, and my sister's face when the 19 checks reached the table. I do not feel triumphant. I feel released. Because there are families who call you cold when you stop burning yourself to keep their story warm. There are people who call paperwork cruel because it is the first thing in the room that does not flatter them. And there are moments when the kindest thing you can do for yourself is let the record speak where your pleading used to be. I never got the speech where Carolyn stood before everyone and said she lied. I did not need it. The trust was safe. My mother was cared for. The baby had her blanket. And my name, dragged across a baby shower for entertainment, was no longer available for anyone else's debt. Some families only call it forgiveness when the quiet one pays twice.